Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
And we normally banter a whole lot towards the beginning. I try to catch Merle with before he knows I'm recording. But my God, we got so much to talk about today that,
right?
Man, we got to jump right in.
All right.
So we normally start off the beginning of our episode with career/self-improvement talk. And I want to lean towards, frankly, for the whole episode on self-improvement. You'll see how it all ties together, because a recurring theme inevitably today is the fact that in a few days we have the election coming up. And it is... Wouldn't you say this is the most volatile election of our lifetime?
Oh, yeah, certainly of our lifetime.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we got that looming over us, and that will tie into nearly everything. We have huge spikes of COVID going on right now. I could tell you in Ohio, it's really huge, and I sound like Trump right now. Really huge what's going on right now.
No, it would be really huge.
Yeah, huge. Correct. But what I mean by that is we got a huge increase in hospitalizations. Deaths are up as well. So it's really depressing because I do not want to go through another lockdown right now as things are getting dark. We got the time change coming up Saturday night, I think.
Yeah, Sunday morning. Yeah,
I hate that. I hate that.
Fall back, and then it's going to be dark at 5 o'clock.
Exactly.
That's the long winter that we look forward to. Not.
And here's another thing really bothers me is, so I've been trying to find my news station of choice in the morning, and I go back and forth between Channel 5 or Channel 8. And you know how in the morning they'll show you the weather every 3 minutes, in between commercials every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, they're always so negative. This time of year, they're always, we got a bad forecast coming up for you. Stay tuned. Who wants to stay tuned for that? They don't. Look, here's the thing. Tomorrow's Halloween. It's going to be 50 degrees and wall-to-wall sun all day. That's an ideal Halloween for us out.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Why would you not choose to lead with that?
Yeah.
Instead of possible snow a few days down the road. Who cares? I'll probably change it.
Yeah, that does sound depressing.
Yeah, it bothers me. See, I just, got back from the gym. I'm all wound up, and you got me going.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. So
get in there.
Our self-improvement section, I have a client and a friend who's back in the dating world. He's 65. He's over 50.
Yeah, he's 65.
He's a very young 65. Very healthy, good-looking guy. Super nice. Maybe a little too nice. He's got, I'd say, in my opinion, and I know that he watches the show at least on occasion, so I'm not going to use his name, and I'm not even going to throw out anything descriptive.
Right
and
on.
He knows I've already talked to him about this a little bit.
All right.
But I think he got really taken advantage of in his last relationship. It was someone that I feel was beneath him to begin with, and he went back for seconds, attempt at a retread after she already left him the first time and ran off.
Oh boy, that rarely works.
Very rarely, and it blew up in his face, and so he's in a spot there. It's a vulnerable spot. It's a very vulnerable spot.
He's damaged goods.
For now, correct. And you're going to stay damaged until you heal. You got to heal.
Yeah.
And my advice is, and I know that in the past, months ago, I said to him very flippantly, you just got to get back out there and, play the game. I said much more in my typical
right. I can only imagine.
I said, you just got to get out there and play the game a little bit, and get back on the horse. And to tell you the truth, and because especially on the second time around, I don't believe that, especially not this. If you're not that vulnerable coming out of a relationship, some people may even be like, it was a long time coming. Sure, do what you want, go back out there or whatever. But if you feel like he said in particular something to the effect of what's wrong with me, I must be damaged or I must not be good enough, something to that effect. I forget how he
Oh
worded it.
yeah, yep. I can relate to all this.
So what would you do with that? What kind of advice would you give?
Well, that's a tough situation, you know. I mean,
Mhm.
now was he married? Was he, or was he just in a close relationship?
He is the married kind of guy, and
Right.
he
I'm talking about the
tends to,
last relationship.
he tried to go towards that, and as I understand it, he moved too quickly for the situation.
Uh,
And so, I mean, that he's a married kind of person, you know,
right.
and I think he was
He
barking up the
wants to be
wrong
married.
tree. Yeah,
I
yeah,
see. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So I told him, because he's a religious guy, I think that he's made of all the right stuff. And
Okay. Yeah.
I told him I think that he should get back more involved with the church
Mm.
and
Yeah.
maybe even find some volunteer stuff to do with that. Again, remember, we're getting into the dark, cold months here. I think
Right.
it's time that we try to find productive ways to fill a few nights a week with something that fills our hearts a bit
Boy,
instead of
that sounds
text.
like beautiful advice right there. Well, there's two sides of the coin too, as far as getting back into relationships. One is that, you know, relationships outside of marriage, you know, dating is you're out there and you're kind of seeing if there's a potential match with a mate, and you got to check it out, and it's almost, it's almost like Russian roulette, right? I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and so eventually you're going to get it. You're going to have to get out there and check it out, but when it's too soon after a relationship and you're all emotional, you're sort of like
Vulnerable.
red meat out there for somebody to take advantage of you. And that happens a lot. Now, sometimes that actually works towards the healing process. Getting your heart broken again like that causes you to wake up and realize, hey, wait a
Mm.
second, I'm going about this all wrong. I've got to start to heal myself first before I go out and try to share my love with somebody else. You know, one thing I've learned in my life is that if you don't have love for yourself, you can't, then it's something that you can't give to somebody else. And
That's very
sometimes in these
true.
types of situations, you actually you're damaged. And many times the damage is internal towards your attitude towards yourself. And I heard a little whiff of that in how you were
Yeah.
speaking.
Yeah.
And so that's going to manifest in any new relationships that you have, and it's going to cause dysfunction. And I can say this because I personally have experienced
We've
this
all
when
been
I
there.
was, I was divorced and out there, and I jumped into the mix too early, and I totally experienced this, and so, but even that can be used to correct yourself and use all things to work together for good. So it's kind of hard to say exactly what to do. The right thing to do is heal yourself first. You're exactly right, Barry.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you go out there and strike out a couple of times, you might want to get back on the practice field for a while. In other
Yeah.
words, get out of the game for a little bit and fortify yourself before you go back out in the war. I just mixed analogies all over the place there, but here's what I'll say to capitalize on what you said a minute ago: women smell desperation a mile away. And
Yes.
tell me, Merle, every guy has had this conversation with his guy friends of, oh my God, when I got married or when I got this girlfriend, I go out and women are everywhere. They're all over me. And it's like, where were they 6 months ago when we've all had that? Because women are like, okay, women are more in tune to this kind of energy than we are by necessity. Uh,
I think it is.
they're
It's like an
looking for
instinct.
safety. They're
Yeah.
looking for safety. That's what women are. Even after you get married, they're still the ones that are looking for safety for the family.
Boy.
We're always throwing caution to the wind like fools. And and they're doing that in their dating life too. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's a predator versus prey situation for a large part. So they need somebody that makes them feel safe. Okay, as a partner, that's what they're looking for, and they can smell the desperation on you a mile away. And if you do find somebody that will play the game with you for a little while, they're going to be really beneath you. They're going to be really beneath you.
You know, I kind of feel like I agree with what you're saying, but I do believe that it goes both ways. I think men can sense that as well. I think vulnerable women would probably say they've had that experience before, right? I think the most attractive people, it's not necessarily about your looks, although that plays a part in attraction, of course. Sure. But I do believe that people that are self-fulfilled, people that are self-actualized, they know they have it together, they're confident in themselves, they like themselves. I think when people really have that going on the inside of them, and they don't actually need someone else to complete them, or at least they're giving off of that type of vibe, that's when people are most attracted to them. And so, you know, I think that this is a situation where discipline is a gigantic thing that needs to happen. The church is a great place. A great suggestion, by the way, Barry. The church is a great place to get uplifting
if you're religious. But if you're not, and you're like, I'm going to go find a girl that goes to church, that'll be, and you're not.
That would be
bad.
that sounds hard. But you said this guy has a relationship with God. So, you know, the church is a great place for him to go. And eventually, maybe he will find somebody in the church,
but before we get there, it would be nice that if he just gets back to the sense of community, sense of giving, get outside himself. Because right now, when you're hurt, you're wounded, whether it's emotionally or physically or whatever, you're in here, you're in your own head.
You know, it's like he needs to get married to himself right now.
There's a good,
you know what I mean?
Put it. Another suggestion I had is, and I know it's hard with COVID, but even if it's there's hikes and other things, and there's Zoom, but I mentioned MeetUp. And MeetUp is a great way today to do all kinds of different things that you're interested in for free. So when you sign up for MeetUp, then it's kind of like going on a dating site.
I've heard of this before.
Oh, it's terrific. So all of your interests, you just click on all the different things that you're interested in, and they will span the gamut of personal and professional. I've only used it for professional means of networking. You know, networking with like-minded people. But you could go on hiking events, bike riding, any game nights.
Yeah.
Name it. Which, by the way, you know what I looked up the other day? I'm all over the place. Is I want to play ping pong somewhere through.
I haven't played in so long. I love ping pong.
Me too. And Scott, your brother, and I we went through a phase where we're playing all the time, and he would piss me off so bad. He was so good.
That. Yeah,
he triangulates, man. You could see those little things like a B-2 bomber where they triangulate, and he's like a little Japanese guy.
He's got really good hand-eye coordination as well, and he's quick, and it makes it after the game is over, you want to tackle him, you know.
Absolutely, and it made me really a much better player. I'm actually pretty good, but it's been over 10 years since I played. So
yeah, I haven't played in a long time. It's such a great game.
But it is, for this time of year, it's also good exercise. He and I would be sweating like crazy.
Yeah. If you're really competitive, this is like, going on a run uphill or something. I mean, man, you get yourself worked up. It's funny. I know we're taking a little aside on ping pong, but fine. I had my brother and I were playing ping pong down at the Rathskeller, or that rec center in Kent. Yeah. All the time. And we had gotten pretty good. And my pastor, who was a bit like Flanders on The Simpsons, he is a great guy. But he told us that, oh, I used to play ping pong all the time when I was in college, and why don't we get together for ping pong and then go out for some pie afterwards? And Scott and I were like, this is like red meat. You want to play us and ping? We are going to kick the pastor's butt down there. And,
yeah.
And he said, he came down and he's like, okay, guys, I haven't played in like 20 years. Like that. And it was like, hey, Scott, you want to take him first or should I take him first? This guy was a ping pong wizard.
No kidding.
He had the whole.
He had God on his side.
Exactly. It was like the Holy Spirit was in the ping pong ball. It was just like on Bugs Bunny where you're like, strike one, strike two, strike three.
Yeah, and it's like bouncing right around your head and everything.
Crazy.
And, yeah.
He completely humiliated both of us down there. Wow. And then he laughed. And then he was going to take us out for pie. I'm like, pie? Who has pie?
I don't know.
Pizza pie.
What? Oh, pizza pie.
Yeah. So
gotcha.
We were completely thrown off. It was like this guy was throwing with the knuckleball at us.
Yes.
With everything. It was the pie. It was the thing. It was a complete setup. I'm sure
he probably lives his life like that because everybody has a certain expectation of him, and he could play it all day long.
It was great. It was. I bet he went home and laughed with his wife all night long.
I bet. So
anyway.
To the ping pong thing, I can't find a table that's anywhere within reasonable distance of me, and that really is disappointing. So I'm starting to have these fantasies about opening up my own tavern around here that's geared towards people my age with a ping pong table and everything that I would want in a tavern, where it's more moderate, no loud music and all of that.
Yeah. Now, would you have a pool table in there too?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, good.
Yeah, absolutely. Things like that. Even maybe some throwback pinball machines, you know.
Man. Does anyone play pinball anymore?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I like it.
Finishing up with our dating advice, let's see. I said, I made a note, go easy on the dating apps, because that's one of those things. It's kind of like going to a bar to try and stop drinking. Oh, I'm just going to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. That doesn't work. You know, the dating app thing, of course, you know, dating for me was a long time ago. There weren't dating apps, or they were sort of in their infancy. I know you tried them out.
Back, there weren't apps. There were websites.
Yeah,
Back then there was the two big ones were Match.com, which I figured I put in the nightclub kind of category, and then there was eHarmony, which I put in the neighborhood bar category. So that was more down to earth, you know.
Right.
It was more the relationship app, but Match.com was the hookup site. That was a long time ago.
It's crazy. I was in Vegas recently and on a business trip, and I got an Uber somewhere, and this woman who was our Uber driver tells us about, we have, you know, there'll be a group of guys that'll get in my car, and they're on their app, and they're just flashing through this app and everything, flashing through different people, and then they'll say, okay, pull over here. And because they got a hookup, that's what they did. They jumped in and just took a ride, and then they hooked up with somebody on the app, and then that's how they decided where to get off. That's crazy. That seems like a sure way. I mean, I wouldn't want my daughter to be involved with some guy that was doing that. It seems like a sure way to get taken advantage of.
Boy, when you put it like that, that's a whole nother thing, because I was putting myself, I was sitting there immediately going, well, let's not be judgmental here. You know, we're a little older. We're out of the scene. Put yourself in that position. And then you said, well, if my daughter met a guy that, okay, I follow you. I agree with you.
I want to say this too, because, and we've talked about this, where when you're putting out negativity, it's actually ricocheting back and giving you a black eye. And really having really that kind of attitude where you're just trying to hook up, that's going to backfire on you. You're not going to like yourself. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that no matter, you might brag about it to your friends and everything, but at the end of the day, you're not doing another human being right, and that's gonna backfire on you.
Well, I totally understand where you're coming from, Merle, but this is over 50 starting over.
True.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think at this stage in our lives that if you're looking to simply hook up and wonder if you're going to feel better about yourself, I think that you need a little more help than what we could provide.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think at this stage in our lives that we have to handle things with a little more maturity and respect.
Yeah.
And so that we have self-respect, try to find somebody that you respect to go out with.
I can't imagine being over 50 and being back in the dating scene personally. I think that would be terrible. But I do remember when my dad passed away that my mom was briefly out on the dating scene again.
It's a long time ago, though.
And as her son, I can tell you that I didn't like it. And she's beautiful to this day, extremely beautiful. And boy, so the whole neighborhood found out that she was a widow, and people were coming up to me and, hey, tell your mom that. Like, are you kidding? Are you talking to me like that? Anyway, now she's married to an awesome man who's my stepfather for many years now, and very happy. But boy, it seemed like there's a lot of dysfunctional people out there.
There always are. And when you get to our age and find yourself single, if it takes you by surprise, it could really rock your world and put you in that desperation mode. And we're typically talking from a male point of view, but think from a female point of view. If you're taken by surprise and found yourself single and you are very vulnerable and desperate, you could be making some bad decisions out there, showing up at the wrong place with the wrong people. And I'm right there. What I'm alluding to are dating apps. It's a fast scene. It seems today. And I said this on a podcast. We talked about this a long time ago, months ago. And Lisa never forgot this. She throws it in my face. But I said I would probably do meetups in a social environment where, hey, play games, do hikes, do bike riding, until you find somebody that you hit it off with on more of a friend type level. I think that's
like great advice.
A healthy way to go.
Now, what did you mean Lisa never forgot that you said that?
Oh, I'm going to hear about it again for the next 6 months. Oh, so you would go on meetups, huh? Well, what kind of meetups? Because I've done, and I also, one of my suggestions is perhaps start your own meetup, because there's always something. I've done this business-wise as well. When you lead a group, you're looked at totally differently. So you're a leader. You're not, instead of being a follower, it's a whole different ball game. So maybe you want to start your own meetup. It's something like $60 for 6 months.
Well, I love the concept of meetup, not just for the dating thing, because I think there's a lot of people out there that, not even just professionally, there's so many people out there, especially our age, that, you're married or whatever, but you still need to have friends outside of your marriage and everything. And it's hard to find friends. And the best way to find friends is that you have something in common with them. And so I like the hike thing or bicycle riding. I first heard of Meetup with some motorcycle people that I met, and they were saying, oh yeah, you could go on Meetup and then you find all these people that want to go on a ride, meet here at 11 o'clock, and they go on a great ride together and all. I've never done it myself, but I do think that things like that are very positive that have been invented out there, and people can take advantage. It's like the Bible says, it's not good for man to be alone. We need to have people around us. And getting back to your friend, what a great friend you're being by advising him this way, because this helps him to get outside of his shell. He can find other people that can help support just his whole inside. just by being around other people and having a joy and then finding himself again. That's what's really important here.
And I also think that it's really good for men to hang around some good men, other good men, and I mean good men, not dummies, and women as well, to hang around really
I
good
agree.
girlfriends.
I totally agree.
Helps you recharge your battery and get your perspective back on track.
You know, I got to say that my wife and I, Anne Marie, whenever I go out with my friends or with Scott, and I do this for her as well, I always encourage her, go out there, do your thing, have fun. Don't worry about, when you come back or whatever. And then while she's out, I never text her unless it's an emergency. I just let her just be out there and have her thing. But sometimes I'm out with other people and man, just constantly they're getting hit up, it's like they can't actually separate.
Wow. Oh, geez.
That's a big deal to me.
If you go out, she's getting hit on all the time. Is that what
No. I'm that would be a whole nother episode. I'm saying that they're getting texted by their wife back home. Like they can never actually leave and have their own free time. They're constantly being monitored.
That's funny. 2 seconds ago, I just shut off my phone because, trying to do this podcast and that distraction is starting to go on. It's been, my phone's been interrupting my life a little too much. But so to your point, I totally, that's a point. And then if that person was to shut off their phone, it would be,
oh yeah, then you're gonna be
damned if you do, damned if you
right,
don't.
Exactly.
So not cool. But we got to move along because
let me just one last thing. You mentioned the phone. Isn't it interesting? My mom and I were talking, and her phone went out. She was without her phone for like 3 days, and when she got it back, I was trying to call her. What's up with my mom? Where'd she go? And she says, "Boy, being without my phone, I didn't realize how much I depend on that thing."
Yeah.
Boy, there was a time when we didn't have smartphones.
Sure.
It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't.
And man, these things control our lives now. I mean, gosh, and some people way more than others. Speaking of your phone, I mean, some people you can't even have a conversation with them because they're constantly, what's going on? What's happening over here? It's like they have. What is it where people get attention deficit disorder because of their smartphone?
Buddy, I've said it before. I firmly believe it's the bridge because the next step, and very shortly, that thing's going to be implanted in the
here we go with that. That's so
for sure.
Maybe you're right.
For sure.
Maybe you're right. I don't know. I hope you're wrong about that because
no way.
If it's if it's causing attention deficit disorder, then will be controlled by technology. I think that's a terrifying thought to me.
And I know that you and your brother Scott were always huge buffs on the original Star Trek. I liked the second, it was called The Second Generation. I like that even better.
Captain
Did you
Picard.
watch it?
Of course.
Okay, the Borg. Dude, that was so long ago, and I think
scary.
It was spot on. I think it's still spot on. The Borg is simply, in Star Trek, it is a merging of humans with technology. The technology is actually dominant, and they use the humans as like cyborg hosts, and yet they're all part of the same. They call it the collective, and
that's what's scary.
And I think that is pretty spot on. The internet currently is external from us. The Borg in Star Trek is the internet that people then come symbiotic with. Yeah, that's right now, this phone is our external hard drive, and really soon is going to be an internal hard drive.
I see what you're saying, and that scares me because you lose your individualism, and I see exactly what you're talking about because that seems to be happening with this whole thing with our smartphones and social media. We start to not think for ourselves anymore. Somebody does all the thinking for us into this collective, which is a whole, with the election season coming up and everything, it seems like that's what our choice is right now. It's a choice between the pure individualism that's inside of the Constitution, and this complete fight against that whole thing. And no, be like us. This is even the censorship that's going on right now. It's no,
dramatic.
you have to believe this one thing, like the Borg is telling you this, and if you don't believe this, we're going to root you out like a disease. Boy, if we have, I mean, that seems to be what's happening to me.
It is. You talk about the censorship. So I think it was yesterday I saw a YouTube video of Ted Cruz just going at it with what's his name? The CEO of Twitter.
Yes.
Twit. It's a very well named company, Twitter.
Yeah, I agree.
And boy, that guy, the arrogance of him to think that he should have the power to censor what people can and can't see, because on the docket here was the absolute censoring of the whole Hunter Biden situation.
Absolutely. You know, it's Jack Dorsey, the CEO. And what struck me was his appearance. Here's a guy that's running one of the most lucrative businesses in the world. And he looks like, I mean, with that beard and just that weird kind of demeanor that he had, it was kind of shocking, don't you think?
Yeah, it looks like he hasn't taken a shower in several months.
And he seemed drugged.
Yeah, he just kind of fits he fits a stereotype, but I'll just leave it at that. But to your point, because next up is Facebook and Google, they're almost equally Google is certainly equally to blame. Facebook has been making some at least some gestures in the right direction of turning that ship around. Google, I think Google is bad enough that we should all consider using alternate search engines.
Yeah, why is that?
Yahoo is available. DuckDuckGo always promotes, it's gotten pretty big. It always promotes itself as being completely respectful of privacy. It does not take your information. I don't know how much I believe that, but that is their mantra. Now, Microsoft Bing, but then it's trading one superpower for another, so I don't know how great of a thing that is. What you do have to worry about is how valid, how accurate your search results are. For me, it's a large part of what I do for a living is search engine optimization and getting people found. So it's not as easy for me to adopt this different alternative online thing, but I would encourage other people to. But frankly, I don't know. I really believe that these companies like Twitter, Facebook, and Google should be seized and carved up like the Bell Company of the 70s. What do you think about that?
You know,
what I mean is monopolies. That's what
it's a slippery slope, right? I agree. These people have become so powerful that they actually have become the Borg. They are controlling people's minds.
Yes.
And this really gets into the hatred that we're seeing. You know, they're always talking about hate speech, but what we're seeing right now is this complete hatred of anything that has to do with Trump or anyone that's supporting a conservative value like Amy Coney Barrett. There's this attack on this.
Goes both ways. We hate
not in the mainstream media. I don't believe that.
No, not in the mainstream
That's what I'm talking. That's what we're talking about right now.
Okay. I didn't know.
And we're talking about how this is controlling a narrative out there where now if you try to have a conversation with somebody and use your head about what you're seeing, there's this anger attack that happens. And I'm not seeing that going both ways for the most part. I do believe that it can go both ways, and it does go both ways, but there seems to be a mainstream opinion that's being beamed out by these big tech companies that want you to believe in a certain way. It's very powerful.
It's very powerful. And to the extent, get this one, Merle, so the whole Hunter Biden fiasco and how Joe is implicated into it in such a huge way is being completely censored. Mainstream media won't even talk about it. So what about all your investigative reporters that are out there that are young and want to make a name for themselves? And this is just like low-hanging fruit, yet they don't do it.
Why not?
Not a single one.
Why won't they do it?
They will be ostracized. Their careers would be ruined. They'd be ostracized completely. That's how bad this is.
This is what's scary about the whole thing. And we're seeing this now, because I saw a reporter ask Joe Biden. He yelled out, "What about the FBI?" And Joe Biden made some kind of gesture towards him, and the other reporters laughed at him, jeered him, like he was some kind of an idiot. And that's what's happening. Last night, I actually was watching Tucker Carlson last night. I really like him, by the way. He showed this clip from a news source called Cheddar. Never heard of it before. Very small. He was actually saying that this whole Tony Bobolinsky thing, not one mention of his name has been made on mainstream media, NBC, CBS, ABC. It hasn't been mentioned once over the last 5 days since he gave the interview of Tony Bobolinsky. So this one guy from Cheddar News or something like that asks a Biden spokesman about these things that are happening that now the FBI is investigating. And the guy says, "Look, I'm not going to give any energy to this smear campaign. It's taking the attention away from the failed policies of Donald Trump. And what we need to be focused on is a Joe Biden victory on Tuesday." And the news person says this, "Fair enough," and moves on. Fair enough? Are you kidding me? That's not fair enough.
What if it was Russia collusion, 3 years of Russia collusion?
Right. And what if somebody from the Trump administration said that to the news people? Do you think they would say fair enough? No, they wouldn't say fair enough. I'll give credit to this guy for one thing. He's the only guy that had courage enough to confront this. At least he asked the question. They're not even asking the question out there. And why not? No. That's the scary thing. Now, here's what's really scary about that is that the news is a constitutional protection of our own freedoms. The news organizations, the media they're not supposed to be friends with Joe Biden or Donald Trump. They're supposed to be very suspicious of them because, as we know, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And they're supposed to be the reason we have these people and allow them such leeway is so that they can go to places and find out information that you and I couldn't, so that we can understand who these people are, especially during an election season, so we know who to vote for and who can represent us. If that goes away, we cannot judge appropriately the right people to protect our values. Boy, I'm telling you, this is the beginning of a gigantic theft of our freedoms right now. What we're seeing right now in the media is, it should be horrifying to everyone. I don't know that it is.
I don't know either, Merle. I make such an effort to see all sides of the media, and I have more so since we started doing this podcast because it's gotten important. If I'm going to spout an opinion, I want to see what's happening on both sides. And
me too.
I don't know the numbers on how many people actually do look at both sides in this country. I know there's a big percentage that don't. Well, we've talked about that many times. Here's something that I remember seeing on the news like yesterday, something like 80,000. Oh, I totally forget. A whole lot of people have already registered to vote, pre-voted, mail-in ballots.
Yeah. It's something like 80 million now.
Yeah, that's what I remember. That's what I meant. I said 80,000, and I was like, I remember thinking to myself, it was about it was about a third of the voting population.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
Say about going into this election, I think it has to say that historically we'll only know after after the smoke clears. But this, I think, historically will be by far the biggest turnout, ever.
I think so too. I think it says a couple of things too. And one is that, yeah, I heard another report that said that people that used to vote where they kind of split the ticket, I voted for these Democrats and these Republicans, that's sort of a thing of the past. People are voting straight party now.
Yeah.
And so, it points to the fact that the two sides, Republican, Democrat, are so far apart in their values now that you can't, it's not possible for you to kind of split that rail any longer. They don't have very much in common anymore. And this goes to the whole thing that you and I have talked about the difference between liberalism and leftism. Liberals and conservatives have most things in common.
Mm-hmm.
Conservatives and liberals have very few things in common with leftists. Liberals a little bit more, but not really that much.
Not much.
But the Democrat Party has moved so far to the left, as far as, I'm not talking about the people that vote, but the people that are represented in Congress and the Senate, that when voting, it's either you believe one way or the other. And going back to the mail-in ballots, I think people, for the most part, made up their mind months ago who they were going to vote for.
Agreed.
And so therefore, and nothing is going, it doesn't matter what it says on the news, nothing's going to change their mind. They just went ahead and voted. Add to that the whole coronavirus thing, and now you've got a recipe there.
Boy, don't we? It's called 2020. That's the end result.
2020 is really something, isn't it?
It really is. So you brought up a whole lot of things that I want to get to the main point of, and that is, boy, people are voting party rather than, splitting here or there. People are actually voting party. So that gets to how divided that we are and how diverse. I want to back up and say, I don't believe that the Democratic Party has been necessarily pulled so far left. As you say, I think they're in a tug of war. I think the party's in turmoil and in a struggle for its identity right now between the left and the traditional Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and, the older people. They don't want to lose that power. They want to appease the far left, but they don't. I just don't think that they're
seems like
board.
They've gone far left, though. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
To appease, yeah.
But it seemed. I think I think you're right that they were forced to have to capitulate to the squad.
Biden as well, yes,
and Warren and everything like that. They all had to do that, but now that they've done that, they can't go back. And
I think
therefore they've actually become a part of that. You do. I don't see it.
If Biden gets elected, he's going to honor half the things that he said. He's going to forget all that stuff. That guy's a puppet. He's an absolute puppet.
Right. And I think he's controlled by these people. I really do. If you look at who he's jockeying for some of his cabinet positions, it's a lot of leftist mentality type people. I think those are the people that are going to be pulling the strings like a marionette doll.
All right. So I want to get to the big point here. It ties back into the theme of the whole show. And that is, I'm asking everybody out there, how are you going to show up on Wednesday morning? Regardless of who wins. If your guy wins, or in your case, gal, meaning Kamala, regardless of who wins, how are you going to show up Wednesday morning? So if Trump wins, is it going to be 4 more years of absolute hate and misery for a big percentage of people in America? If Biden wins, is there going to be a feeling of an oncoming utopia? What is it going to be?
I think that there's a false sense out there that if Joe Biden wins, somehow all of this anger and conflict melts away. And if Joe
utopia.
And if Trump wins, there's going to be all of this violence that happens. I kind of see it in a way that either side of the ticket, there's going to be. It's just hard to not believe that there's going to be some type of violent reaction here.
Here's what I got to say about that, because I'm so bothered by the immaturity of all of this.
Me too.
The immaturity I see people our age conducting themselves with on social media.
Agreed.
And we raised our kids to be better than that. And for some reason, not for some reason, it's because we blame other people for our behavior now. We have lost the sense of personal responsibility. And if we want to call our friends, family, and neighbors racists or other things like that, we end up saying it's because of Trump or whatever it may be, whatever your affiliation is, or whatever the other person's affiliation is that angers you so much. Here's what I got to say. When we wake up on Wednesday morning, your life will not change. This is your life in the immediate will not change. Your day will go on just the same. If you never turn on the news, it will still unfold the same way. If you wrap yourself up in hate and anxiety, you're going to bring on more negativity into your day. And let's take the politics out of it. This is the same with everything that we do, whether it's conducting our personal lives or our professional lives, that when you get wrapped up in anxiety to the point where you're having ill effects, anxiety attacks or extreme hatred and discomfort, one of the two things are happening. You're either stuck in the past and reliving some painful moments, or you're afraid of the future. But what you're not is you're not present in the moment, because you're just fine in that.
That is the truth.
You're absolutely fine. You have food in the refrigerator. You have shelter. Now, if you don't have these things, this political thing isn't your problem. You have other problems going on. But these politics are not going to threaten your life in the near future. You may worry about the direction of the country. Well, you got 4 years to prepare to change that in whatever way that you want. This is the problem that I've had with the Democratic Party in the last 4 years. And when I was vocal on social media a few years ago, I would say this, that, well, who's your person? I'm hearing all this hate about Trump, all the hatred that you're spewing out here. Who's your person? Who's your guy, or whatever it may be? What's your platform? You haven't been talking about that. The best answer I'd ever get is anyone but Trump. Hate is not a platform. That's what I heard for nearly 4 years. So regardless of who wins this election on Tuesday, America will stay intact, and you will have 4 years to prepare for whatever it may be that you want to be a part of in moving forward thereafter. But what I hope is that we stop with the insane hatred, screaming at the sky, and denouncing your neighbors, your friends, and families, their intelligence, their well-being. Quit thinking that they're evil. We all think that we're doing the right thing. We all want the right thing. We all think that we have the best of intentions. If we don't see eye to eye, well, then maybe try putting something out there that's rational, that can change someone's mind.
You know, as you're speaking, Barry, I was thinking about the Pledge of Allegiance, and which isn't all that popular anymore, but we used to have to say it every morning. And the one part is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think it's time that, we focus on that, because the fact is, whoever wins this election, it's still one nation under God, and it's in God's hands, and he can use whoever gets elected for his purposes, for glory. I mean, we are the only nation that's out there that's founded on the principles of God. There aren't any other nations like that. This is where our liberty and freedom comes from. There's no other nation that's built that way. So whether Joe Biden gets elected or Donald Trump gets elected, they're just one person. They're not the God of our nation when we elect them. You know, I think about Barack Obama in his term, his 8 years in office. And I was not a Barack Obama fan. I didn't vote for him. I didn't care for him. However, during the Obama administration, as much as I hated his policies, I made my business went through the roof. I made more money than I ever did in my entire life during that 8-year period up to that point. And my point is, and my family prospered as well. We all did well. We saw things that we didn't like, but to your point, we were fine. And that is because my family is under the care of God, not Barack Obama or Donald Trump or Joe Biden. I think this is where we can find solace and peace during this time. We're not controlled by the media. I think back to the whole Borg statement that they would like for our emotions to be controlled by this constant, it's an emergency, it's this, it's that, be emotional. And I think we're seeing the fruits of that out there. People are rioting. People are beating other people. They're insensitive. They don't care. They're callous. It's amazing. Even in good times, people are doing terrible, dastardly type things.
Scoundrels.
These scoundrels. Hey, just on a side note, did you see where Los Angeles, the Dodgers won the World Series the other day? Great news for the city. I mean, they won the basketball championship as well. It's the City of Champions. In both occasions, immediately afterwards, they tore up the town.
Really? I didn't know that.
It's funny that the media ignored this, but I saw images of a truck, a semi-truck, being looted by people that looked like they were our age. Just ransacked, pulling all the products out of this truck and everything. And they were all wearing like Dodgers paraphernalia and everything. The same thing happened when the Lakers won. They burnt up, they torched a bus in the middle of the city. They looted different stores and all.
What do you suppose the rationale is? Who are they blaming for their behavior? How are they justifying their behavior? What's the cause?
Look, the cause was apparently they were so happy. I mean, they're not even angry and they're tearing stuff apart. I don't understand. I had in my notes, the question is, what causes people to do this? And I believe that what's happened with this whole media frenzy that we've been inundated with is that we now are controlled by pure and raw emotions. Whether we're in a happy mood, we somehow boil it down to this base animalistic type of thing. And they seem like animals out there. And I wonder what causes a mature adult to act like this. I have no idea. I can't even begin to tell you.
The same question I posed, 10 minutes ago. I said the same thing. The fact that we've lost all of our composure and emotions, raw negative emotions are guiding us now. And we seem to be just fine with that. Be embracing it. No, I'm not either.
That's why I go back to that one nation under God thing, is if people could just snap out of it and look at I don't know.
But that's divisive now too, because we are such a diverse society. So I don't know. I don't like it. Under God was added in the 50s. I think that was not the right thing to do with a melting pot, but the pressure was there.
I don't know. Our founding documents have God all over it.
Of course they were, because we were primarily one piece of society back then. And then we, with our open, what's the Statue of Liberty say? Bring us your poor, your weak, and all that. And so we are the melting pot.
Bless.
Whatever. Yeah. So there's all these different religions.
I don't know if that's a whatever. Yeah, sorts of religions. Right, exactly.
I do. Definitely, I'm a proponent of whatever your higher power is. I definitely say that we should embrace that.
Exactly.
It's a guiding light.
Exactly my point.
But my point is when we simply say one nation under God, people think one thing. Oh, because it gets wrapped up in the whole white patriarchy thing as well. And so people assume that you mean Christian. And if we can just...
Well, that's not true. I mean, that's absolutely...
That's what I'm saying, is if the connotation... It's kind of like the... in the South, the Confederate flag for the left became a symbol of slavery. Well, to the South, it was a symbol of just of their lifestyle,
Right.
and their pride in their lifestyle, their individuality.
Right.
But to the left, it became a symbol of racism. And so therefore, oh, we have to stamp that out.
I agree.
And when you say under God, now people say, oh, it's a symbol of Christianity and exclusiveness of Christianity at forsaking other cultures. That's what it is to them. So I would just
they've turned it into that, right? But that's not what it means. That's the thing. That's the whole thing that I'm actually bringing up, is that we demonize things and change the meaning of things, because the fact is that when the founders put this together, there were people that were Jewish here, there were people of other faiths that were here. That's what they meant. Mm-hmm. And so if you take a look at our society, I've heard statistics that less than 5% of the people in our country would consider themselves atheists. So like you said, God is actually, to me, God, I'm a Christian. I know who God is, but you might be a Muslim, or you might have another religion. The whole thing is inclusive. And so that's the scary part here, is that why can't we have a discussion about the foundation of America and be proud of the fact? I think I saw it in your notes where people of Jewish, Christian, and Muslim faith were getting together. That's what America really is. And we should be trumpeting that from the rooftops, that this is a place where you can, just like the show, I always bring this up, but where you can have different thoughts and still love and respect each other and find commonalities. That's the important thing. I would even say that if you're an atheist, you have a God as well, because maybe God above isn't your concept, but there's some kind of concept of God within you. And therefore there's a commonality there. Why do we always have to find our disparities and then attack those when we have so much more in common here as Americans than we have differences?
I absolutely, I completely agree with you. What I want to wrap that up with is the original question: how are you going to show up on Wednesday? Are you going to go to work, and can you set it aside? Can you realize that the American system is a system? It's not a single person.
Amen.
Right. And you got a short 4 years. This 4 years for me went by very, very quickly. And you got a short 4 years to try to make things better in whatever way you see fit. So I don't know. I hope that we can just get behind our president and whoever that may be, and try to get this nation back to, as speaking of everything that you just said, to more unity, to more forgiveness, togetherness, more of a whole team rather than always a divided team.
I totally agree. And unfortunately, what we're seeing leading up to this is that people have the idea that if you have a certain political mind, whatever it is, that somehow we're not allowed to be friends anymore. And I think that is a detrimental to our society.
I don't know if you want to go there, but I know that you can speak quite heavily to that point. Do you want to talk about it?
The fact is I just believe this. I have lost some friends leading up to this. I sent a text out to a friend of mine recently where I was just wanting to say hello, hadn't touched base in a little while. And he didn't ask me, he said, if you're going to vote for Trump, don't contact me anymore. I don't need that negativity. And I said, I never said who I was going to vote for. I think that's a sacred honor, by the way.
Right.
And I said, I can't believe that something like this would this would come between us where we can't be friends anymore. And it got worse from there. I'm just saying that what a shame, because this is, people that I felt like I had a brotherhood with this person. And that, look, if I were walking down the street and I saw this guy in trouble or somebody was threatening him, man, I would jump into the fold there. I would be right there ready to kick some butt. But apparently that must have been not true. coming the other way. I don't understand how politics can cause people to not be friends anymore. That doesn't make sense.
There's a certain percentage of people that seem to wake up in the morning, get their coffee, and turn on their news channel of choice, and it guides them the entire rest of the day. And I think that's very unfortunate.
I do too. I think that it goes back to this whole thing. I mean, we've been on a theme here this entire show, and you know, and you brought up the Borg and just like this whole thing, but we're allowing social media or media to program our minds to and it brings out this raw emotionalism where it causes us to decide who can be our friends and who can't be our friends, who deserves to have special favors, who doesn't deserve to have special favors. And I think we need to wake up and smell the coffee and realize we're being manipulated here. And we should, love should actually be our guiding light here.
Not hate.
Not hate. Exactly.
You know what hate comes from, though? Fear. Because the media, the mainstream media, is all day trying to put fear into our hearts and souls.
You know, you started the show with that, with the weather report. You're gonna have this beautiful day tomorrow, and the news is telling you, oh, it's gonna be an awful day today.
Yeah, stay tuned in a few minutes. I got a doozy for you.
I mean, look at that. It's just pure manipulation. I mean, I used to work at an amusement park at a carnival game. These guys have it perfected. These are the master carnies, and they're running the media now.
No kidding. No kidding. All right. So we still got a lot I want to say, just a whole bunch, and we really got to wrap up. But I wanted to say Arnold Schwarzenegger's been in town here at the Cleveland Clinic. He got heart work done. I don't want to say what kind. It was in there. I don't remember. Probably triple bypass or something. You can't do better than Cleveland Clinic. That's why people come from Arabia, the Arab nations and all that. And the richest of the rich come here to the clinic for heart work.
They do.
So he's been on Facebook. I'll put a couple pictures on our screen here. So if you're watching the podcast, you are listening to the podcast, you might want to take a look at our YouTube channel, Over 50 Starting Over. And anyways, he's been around University Circle and stuff, taking pictures by the statues, just really embracing
that's cool
Cleveland. And I like that. That's right down the hill from me. And I just thanks Arnold. Really appreciate that. And I also the governor, right. And bet they wish they had him back in there now.
Yes.
And then I just wrote an article the other day that I pushed out on social media. It is on Overfiftystartingover.com. It is also on edwardscom.net. The question was, will Generation X be the first generation to never get to retire? And it's ended up being a little bit of a long article because there's a lot behind that, Merle, that I know that you would see right away once I say it. But the first generation to not get to retire 150 years ago was the Wild West, not even 150 years ago. We're pioneering across the entire nation. These people retiring was not even in the vocabulary.
No.
Living day to day was all they thought about.
Yeah.
So
it was the Industrial Revolution that brought in the whole retirement plan.
And there you go. So the Wild West roughly took place from 1880 to 1900. And so at the beginning of the 20th century was when factories started coming about. People started having steady jobs. We all of a sudden made it into the roaring 20s. Yeehaw! Where did that take us to? The freaking Great Depression. People weren't talking about retiring then. They were talking about trying to get a large sandwich to live through a day. So really, and then it was coming out of that when the labor unions took hold and got strong. And this is where the ideas of the 40-hour work week, your weekends, your 2-week vacation, and retirement, that whole structure took hold. That was only 2-3 generations ago. And here's my real point. We're in a constant state of change and flux. I think it's time we dismantle that whole idea of the 40-hour work week with the weekends that you live compulsively to get to that weekend reprieve. Oh, thank God. so that you get your 2-week vacation and finally, hopefully get to retire with a year or two under your belt before you die. Now, your father, my father, Lisa's father, all died before they got to enjoy a single day of retirement. So I suggest that, and this is happening, Generation X is a very transitional generation where we're now asking the big question, and people are changing careers something like 11 to 15 times during their lifetime, something like that, something crazy. People are trying to find work that is meaningful to them now. So we don't have to live compulsively anymore where, so we're working in this factory doing monkey work, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 40 hours a week, just so we could get to the weekend and drink our asses off so we could forget about it, to get to our 2-week vacation so we could finally get to retirement and enjoy our lives a bit. We should not live like that anymore. And we should not base our day on, hell, it's Monday. Or, hey, it's Saturday. How about if it's another day and you get up and do something that you enjoy and is meaningful to you?
I love that. I love what you're saying. And it should be like that, right? It's our lives. We shouldn't just enjoy the weekend. We should be enjoying every day. Yes. I got a friend of mine that I've been in business with, and he says, treat every day like it's Sunday. You know, just it is. He's right. We should be enjoying. The last few days, at the end of the day, I've been saying to myself, boy, what a great day. I got to do a lot of great things today. And we should be taking it on a day by day basis that way, and really enjoying what we do, who we're interacting with. Every day when we wake up, there are gifts that are laid out for us, almost like a treasure trap we get to run into, and we get to enjoy. I was talking to one of my neighbors last night when I was on my walk, and boy, what an enjoyable time we had together. I wasn't expecting that. It just happened. That's how every day should be, Barry.
I completely agree. So go ahead and check out that article. There's more explanation.
I like that.
It's at Overfiftystartingover.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page. You'll see those latest posts, or edwardscom.net. And with that, I want to just say something on, I want you to say something that we have a guest coming up. I do believe it'll be next week, and I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit.
Yeah. So we're going to actually have Rex Lee on the show, and Rex has done a lot of research on the big tech companies and really some cyber warfare that's happening. He is an expert in this area. He's actually provided a lot of the research material for the Senate hearings that have been happening with the big tech companies, and what the big tech strategy is, the alignment with the Chinese Communist Party, this whole new way of high-tech warfare that's happening as opposed to conventional warfare. He's got great insights. I'm really looking forward to talking to Rex. We've had him on the show before. Very insightful, and it should be, please tune in for that because it's going to be great.
It'll be one action-packed half hour because he's got so much knowledge and so much to say, and we have a limited time frame to work within. So yeah, it's going to go by so fast. I'm really looking forward to it.
Just a real quick shout out to the country. Great news. GDP, gross domestic product, up 33% in Q3. This is the highest quarterly growth ever in American history.
Really?
Absolutely.
I did not hear that.
Numbers just came out yesterday.
That's amazing that we can go another $3 trillion in debt and pull that one off. So maybe we should do this more often.
We didn't actually go. There was no stimulus passed in the third quarter. So that had something to do with it. But this had a lot to do with the rebound that was across the board, and personal consumption contributed 25%. We had growth from services and goods, and the industries that were most hurt by the spring lockdowns bounced back strongly, including motor vehicles, healthcare, and even food services and recreation. So that is very, very good news. America is coming back, and even in the midst of all of this doom and gloom that we hear on the news about coronavirus, America is resilient. we are very strong.
Oh, that's awesome news. And I got a real feel good for you right here too, to wind things up with. And we really, for very good reason, have been down on Twitter. And we talked about that earlier in the show. Here's a good one though. This was very recent, and it was published on a publication called sunnyskies.com. I like to frequent them because they publish positive news.
I like the name.
Yeah, a man tweets, in quotes, "I'm not okay." And people around the world rally to show their support. And this is very, very moving. I am going to share the photos right here on here. So once again, if you're listening, by the way, I highly suggest that, hey, if you like to watch the show that on YouTube, that's great. Myself, I like to listen to podcasts, especially when I'm at the gym, riding my bike or shopping, doing whatever. I listen to podcasts all the time when I'm idle. So I would suggest that you go to your little podcast app and pull up your library and type in Over 50 Starting Over and subscribe to our podcast there. However,
that's a great suggestion.
If you've already done that, maybe pop over to YouTube/Over 50 Starting Over and check out these photos, because I'm putting some photos up of these tweets. Somebody baked this cake in the shape of a lamb and sharing it with them.
I don't see it yet.
Because I have to put it on in post.
Okay. Right. Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Right. So, and just said, hey, just wanted to give you a laugh. And they made it a few Easters ago. Then this next one is this person's hand with a butterfly on it, and talking about how when his sister passed away, she is sending butterflies, and this butterfly came up and landed on his face and stayed there for the longest time. Wow. Really touching. I'm not doing it justice whatsoever. Check these out real quick. Another one of this little kitty that somebody got after their kitten passed away. These people are just sharing this with this guy because I am not okay, is what he posted. He lost his job. He has 2 kids. He's in dire straits. That was the story behind it. And he's down, man, and these strangers. So the next one is this most beautiful painting I've ever seen of the sailboat at dusk in the ocean. And some beautiful things said along with it. Check that out. That's all I got to say. That sometimes social media comes up strong for us. We've mentioned other stories before. We'll continue to mention more in the future. Any parting words for us?
I just want to say thanks for sharing that story. And I totally believe that there are more people out there that have love in their hearts,
yes,
human compassion. And when I say love, I'm talking about they have love in their hearts that they share with other people. And I do believe in that whole concept that the world is a good world out there. That Louis Armstrong song, it's a wonderful world. Yeah. I believe that song. When I go outside, that's what I see. I see exactly what Louis Armstrong saw. And you should listen to that song and let that guide your day.
Especially on Wednesday morning. And when we get back here next Friday, we're going to pick right back up where we left off.
That's
regardless of the outcome.
Hey, welcome to season 1 or season 3. Season 1. Yeah. We started our new season and we're away. Thanks for sharing it with us. We're excited to have you with us.
Yeah, please like, share, and all of that. Love you guys. Love you, brother. Talk to you next week.
Too, man.